there was a poll that was published that said that non-citizens broke 80-20 for Biden. How would someone do a poll like that?
You know, I would have to see what the sample size is.
At least they made an attempt to find out who are the non-citizens. It seems like the governor and the Secretary of State just don't want the facts.
I've actually worked for many pollsters. I actually used to work for Frank Luntz, and I think figuring out how to do a poll of non-citizens in an election they shouldn't be able to vote in that's got a very high degree of difficulty. But Biden's doing really well with that group. I don't know why.
But that sounds like a pretty sensible breakdown.
Yeah.
So, just to sum up, in addition to all the hundreds of thousands of ballots where Republicans were not allowed to observe while the Democrats dealt with them secretly, there are also the clear fact that non-citizens voted. The question is how many. There's the clear fact that felons not entitled to vote voted. We just don't know how many. And that people from outside of Arizona voted. We just don't know how many. And in each case, the governor and the Secretary of State put their names on a certification that the results were true and accurate, and never bothered to make a single effort to find out about these obvious areas that would change the numbers.
In a municipal election this same year, I was working for the candidate, and one of my responsibilities was as poll watcher. And when it came time to open up the absentee ballots, I was sitting in the room, and I made sure I could hear and see everything. And in one case, a name came up, and I had my list, and I raised my hand. I said, I object. That person doesn't live here. Doesn't live in the city, shouldn't be able to vote here. They took his ballot out. They examined it. We had a conversation about whether he should or not, and they actually that vote was invalidated. It was spoiled.
You must have been in a state that follows the law.
I was, in fact, but if you do not have the ability to do that, it undermines the credibility of any election result.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brainard. I appreciate it.
Members on the panel, any other questions for Mr. Brainard? Representative Cook.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to ask you about the votes that you were talking about, that you could go in and you could find that stuff out, and I think we heard some misinformation. It wasn't 10 million, it's only 10,000 and some. And keep in mind, we don't need to find 10,000 votes, and I'm not saying we're for one person or versus the other, but 5,500 votes would change an election. So when you look at the numbers that you have presented just right here, right, and you call in question of, I won by 10,000 votes, let's say, well, 5,500 votes would change the election. And so it's very alarming when I see your information up here and the voicemails that you've had, but thank you for your work.
Thank you, sir.
Point.
Representative Townsend.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to that point, there wasn't just one election here in Arizona. There was many. And we lost one seat in the Senate by a very slim margin. So I think it's important to remember that we're not just looking at this for one person's election, and Arizonans have a right to have representation on a clean, fair election. And your information is quite shocking. That would have changed the outcome of several elections here in the state. So I think an audit is warranted.
Thank you. Mr. Brainard, I've been trying to refrain from commenting, but I'm going to tell you that you have just shown a light on something that confirms, I think, for all of us that this is not an illusory issue. We have seen, this is hard. You know, somebody asked, where's the smoking gun? And I want to see the blood splatter. There it is. All right. So thank you very much, sir. I appreciate your testimony.